Hey guys, in 2022, I want to do a few more book videos, just telling you my thoughts about different books that I finished, and I just finished the Wingfeather Saga. The last book in that series is called The Warden and the Wolf King. It's by Andrew Peterson, who's a Christian author, and this is a story about a family with 3 kids, Janner, Kalmar, and Lily, and they, throughout the course of the series, kind of discover more about who they are and the different ways that things have gone wrong in their world, because the people are being oppressed by these lizard-like creatures called the Fangs of Dang that were sent by Nag the Nameless, which is the big villain in the story. And throughout the course of the series, they figure out who they are and try to figure out how to defeat Nag the Nameless. So it's a adventure fantasy series. One thing I loved about this series in general, and the last book had a little bit of these elements too, but the parents are really involved in the kids' lives. So even as the kids are going off and having these adventures and trying to defeat different bad guys, I guess, the parents are not absent, which in a lot of middle grade books, a lot of the parents, they're just either they don't care, or they're a little stupid, or they or the kids are orphans and they're just not there at all. So I really like that the parental figures in the story were involved in the kids' lives from start to finish. They cared about them. They came together as a family at the end of the day to encourage each other and rest and get ready to go back out again, basically. So it was a great story for that. I really liked that element of it, the focus on family. There's also a focus on home in the book. A lot of the action takes place, and then at the end of the action, they go back home and they eat together, they rest, they take care of each other. And I just really liked that whole theme of family and home through the whole series. The part that really stands out to me from the last book is there is a scene near the end where one of the characters makes a sacrifice for the good of others in the story. And it was just a really beautiful picture of sacrificial love and selflessness. And yeah, it really moved me. I cried, and I had a book hangover for days after that. So it was very good. Kind of a little bit more of a bittersweet ending, but you know that the characters are going to be okay in the end. But it was just very good. Let's see. One thing I wanted to note is that since this is a Christian author, a Christian story, I can't remember if I mentioned that at the beginning. It's written by Andrew Peterson. He's a Christian author. There are a lot of Christian themes through the story, which were really neat, and I thought they were really well done. But I will say that you can't over allegorize it. There were certain elements that, like, for example, there is like a magic ability that the maker, which is the creator of this world, gives to the children to help them speak to each other during difficult moments in the story and things like that. If you try to allegorize all the elements, as, representative of the Christian life in our world, it doesn't really work. So I just think that you have to be careful maybe not to over allegorize the story, which is what I tend to want to do. But if I just took the story for what it was and accepted the rules of this world, I didn't have a problem with it and I loved it. So that's just a note for anybody with my personality on that. And then I like to include a few parental notes for anybody thinking about reading this with their kids or letting their kids read it. There were, especially in this last book, some scary monsters in the story that were a little bit disturbing. The children were taken from their parents at different points in the stories, and families were separated, and that could be hard for some kids. There was some skeletons and things like that in the story, not described in too gory detail or anything like that, but they're in there. Some of the main characters do die in sad ways, and so sensitive kids, I like to make a note of that sort of thing. And then lots of perilous scenes and a really evil bad guy who's doing bad things. So those are just some elements that you just be aware of, maybe for younger kids. It depends on if your kids are sensitive or not. For me and our family, I'd probably err more on the older side of the age range. They recommend this book for ages 8 to 12, and I think it's probably a little bit better for the older side of that. I think my oldest, who's 11, would be pretty much almost ready for this, maybe minus the kind of bittersweet ending. But the rest of my kids, I think we'd probably wait a couple more years before we do this book. So that's my little parental note there. But overall, it was a really great series. A lot of beautiful themes and beautiful pictures in here, especially the sacrificial love at the end. And I loved it. I loved the whole thing. And it was one of those things where I know when I have read series that really stuck with me. At the end of the series, I was so sad that they were over, and I would do a lot of research on what happened to the characters, read the appendices, things like that. I'm thinking of things like Narnia or Lord of the Rings. And this book series really reminded me of how I felt after I finished those series. I felt the same way, as far as I found myself Googling what happened to the characters and reading interviews with the author and things like that after the series, because I just didn't want it to be over. So it was very good. I really enjoyed it.